I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jarrett Bassman with Mark McCain, and you're listening to Everyday Athlete, a podcast devoted to bringing you the amazing stories behind the lives of day-to-day CrossFit athletes like yourself. And today, we've gotten to a new low.
Very different from last week.
Yeah, this is probably the most professional-looking person we've ever had here.
Very well dressed.
Very well dressed today.
Thank you.
We have Adam Zoda. Welcome, Adam. How are you
guys.
today?
Very good.
How's your week?
It's been very good. I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't move this downstairs due to Monday's workout, but
Monday, 150 wall balls.
It was basically Karen plus Grace getting heavier than Grace, right?
CrossFit main site. If you guys have not been checking that out, they are just continuing to produce good content when it comes to workouts. Definitely workouts you look at and you're like, what?
Yeah.
That's people are doing that?
Yeah.
So it was a doozy. But I agree, the steps have been challenging this week.
Luckily, I've been injured. I guess this is a good week to be hurt on, so I don't have to do stuff. Adam, we've known each other for quite some time now, actually.
very long time.
When, because you didn't start necessarily with Triumph. You
No,
kind of migrated over towards when we moved.
I think it was maybe the original Covington CrossFit.
Really?
Yeah.
The tiny one?
It was.
Wow, it's been that long.
I checked my emails, and I found an email to Lexi setting up the on-ramp course, scheduling that, and that was August of 2012.
Wow.
Wow.
You might be one of the longest standing members, and you're still very, young in the grand scheme of things, and very good looking. What?
You didn't do like the 1 hour. You remember that? Like the 1 hour, like the 1 day intro thing we did?
I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
What an awful idea that was.
Yeah.
I get it.
That sounds familiar. I just remember a lot of sea bass.
A lot of sea bass.
Sea
Shout out
bass,
to sea bass.
Shout out sea bass.
I don't know what she's doing right now.
She's on the beach probably.
I know. That's
Living
what
it
I'd
up.
be doing.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's I didn't even realize it was that long. That's pretty
You
awesome.
just had a birthday too, so how put it maybe in perspective for people that don't know you. How old are you?
29. Just turned 29.
In 2012, so that's
5
years ago.
Yeah.
So you started
That was right before my birthday, so 23.
23.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What have you I'm going to dive right into that. What do you how have you grown as far as an athlete and a person? I mean, I think that's a pretty broad statement, but I think it's pretty interesting to see someone who's been doing this that long, to see where they kind of started, because I'm sure it wasn't like, well, I'll just do this for the next 6 years or 5 years.
No, it actually kind of started. CrossFit started out almost as a Tough Mudder training for me, because I was going to do Tough Mudder later that year,
Idiot.
and Brandon Rowe was going to the Saturday classes, and I joined him, and I was like, oh man, this might be, pretty good for getting ready for the Tough Mudder, and now here I am 5 years later. But
Did you ever do a Tough Mudder?
I did. Yeah, right after I started. So
I did one, and I was like, I'll never do that again.
yeah.
I was also one and done.
Yeah.
Spartan race and
I did one Tough Mudder and one Spartan race.
okay.
That was
Yeah.
I did one of each, and the Tough Mudder I did was fun story. I did with Matt Gilman and Frank Madden, two guys that I played soccer with all growing up, and Frank is an avid rock climber. Actually, has written a book on rock climbing. And Matt at the time I think was doing triathlon, so two very fit guys, and I was doing CrossFit, which it's obviously in its own realm, very very, but the kind of requirements for rock climbing and triathlons and CrossFit are all very different, and both those guys are very good runners. I'm not a great runner, but it was I remember driving up there in Attica, Indiana. It was like November 20th, and Attica, Indiana is about 3.5 hours northwest, I think, and it was raining, and it was 35 degrees out.
Yeah.
I lived next to now Laura Sullivan down in Covington at the time, and I borrowed Kevin's like winter army. I don't even know what it was, but it was. I basically couldn't get rid of it because it was army issue and it was his, and he needed it back. And the way the Tough Mudder worked is you went 3, 2, 1, go. You went down the hill. You went up the hill. You went down the hill, and then into the ice water tank.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'm actually colder now because I'm wearing basically just a burlap sack, and had hypothermia and the whole thing, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Told myself I'd never do it again. And then I did one with Chris. I did a Spartan race, but that was warm out. I just was dehydrated on that one.
Yeah.
So did you smoke your friends or what?
Oh God, it was literally one of those things. Like it felt like you'd just been like ran over by a car. It was like a whole 2 or 3 days where
Yes.
I thought there was something like actually wrong with me.
I need to go to the hospital.
Yeah. It was, so it was an experience to say the least. And
But how did the rock climber and the
they did great. I don't know if our times were right. When we finished, they said we crossed the line in 2 hours and 22 minutes and 22 seconds. It was a 14-mile course.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed very fast.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we all were soccer players together. We were all did well at running, and I was at the time pretty fit now and was pretty fit then. So they did very well. It was kind of funny to see the transfers. Obviously, a rock climber is going to do pretty well. There's a part where, let's say there's a pool the width of this table, and there's a monkey bar. You guys have probably seen it. Like it goes up, and then it went up like an A-frame, like a house, and then back down. Well, the bars would spin. So like every third bar was not attached to anything. So you could go to grab it, and it would just spin out of your hand, and people would fall. Like that was the idea. Just no one could get across. Well, Frank's a rock climber, so he shimmied up the side of it and then crawled across the top of the whole thing. And they're like, you can't do that. He's like, I'm gonna.
I just did it.
I just did. You're basically trying to hurt people. And I will say it was kind of funny because, again, it's 35 degrees out and it's raining. And there's that kind of machoism or bravado that comes with, just doing those things like it's a Tough Mudder. And there's these group of like 4 or 5 guys, and they all were wearing loincloths, and that's it. And they were all pretty fit guys. I do remember watching them one by one get carried off on stretchers and the heat blankets and things like that because it's 35 and you're running a 14-mile race.
No jokes.
Yep.
It's
So
real life.
but you are actually signing a death waiver on those things and all that kind of stuff. So
How was your Tough Mudder?
Yeah.
Adam?
Well, we did see a guy in a black thong, so that was pretty exciting.
Nice.
But
Highlight of the trip.
it was, I think, maybe 3 or 4 hours for us. It was flurrying. It was down in Maysville, Kentucky,
Yep.
in late October. So it was pretty cold.
it's funny you say late October. It is October 4th right now, and I just looked at the forecast. It is 80 and above for the next 5 days right
It's
now.
kind of scary.
Yeah.
But no, it was good. I didn't get hurt. We did have one guy mess up his shoulder, and then I had to get surgery, unfortunately.
Holy crap.
But no, it was, other than that, it was successful. Then I ended up doing a Spartan race, and then I think did the mud stash a couple times, which was like a 5K. And
Yeah, it's a little
easier
bit.
stuff.
That's the kind of training wheels version.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that. There are thousands of people that do Spartan races and Tough Mudders. Like, it is still very difficult. Like, it's not a joke. When you talk about like the injuries and things like that, I think you have to have some training.
But it's again, it's just like anything else, right? You can have different levels to it. Like you can walk the course if you want.
Oh, yeah.
You can go around the obstacles, and then you can get to those. I think the Spartan, they have paid athletes now that do their world championship. I think it's on like NBC or something. I could be wrong.
It's crazy.
So there's always going to be different levels. And that's kind of, I think, what we get into. That's the whole genesis of the podcast, right? Is to talk to just people, everyday athletes that aren't necessarily. Obviously we had Melissa on last episode talking a little bit about standing on the podium at the games, which very small percentage of people actually get to do, which makes it so much even more impressive. But by and large, 99% of the people that are coming through our doors are just trying to look good with their shirts off.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And you know, I'm sure there's a reason. There's an appeal to doing something like Spartan Race. There's appeal to doing something like CrossFit, and I think it's just how do I push myself a little bit farther. And I think there's a reason why you probably stuck with this program for as long as you have. Did you find that it helped at all? I mean, how long were you training in CrossFit before you did?
Only a couple of months, so that might not be a good an indicator of
Right.
how well I did. But I remember during the mud stash, I was able to go across those monkey bars for the first time,
Right.
which I failed the last time because I did that twice, and that was super exciting. And that was
There you
only
go.
not even a year into the CrossFit.
And that, friend, is what we call progress. Can't do something, can do something.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was exciting.
And I think that's the one of the genesis for a lot of people, where they get to see, like, as even if you're 23, 24, for whatever reason, once you hit that like age of 18, it's like, well, I'm supposed to be an adult. I can't do these fun things anymore. And you get to see, like, again, just learning new skills. It's not exercise anymore. It's just basically improving yourself in a physical manner. What were you doing anything prior to CrossFit? I mean, do you have an athletic background? Do you?
So I played football 2 years, and then I kind of messed up my back freshman year.
Yeah.
So I didn't do anything after that except for like indoor track. So I did shot put for a year, and still wasn't that great. So
Indoor track sucked.
I remember running through the halls of high school.
I hated indoor track meets. They were the worst, dude. And it's like, you see people run, and it's like, 4 laps to a mile on an outdoor track. It was like 8. You're just like,
I'm dizzy.
It's so bad. You just sit there all day, and it smells, and oh, it was the worst. Where are you from? The area?
Yeah, I was born in Salt Lake City, and then moved
Really?
out. Yeah, moved out from there when I was 2, and then went back maybe once or twice. But since then, lived in the same house in Ellesmere until I moved out after college. And
Where'd you go to college?
in KU.
In KU?
Yep. Yeah, I like to keep it local. So.
Yeah. There you go.
Salt Lake City, huh? I didn't know that. I didn't know you were Mormon.
Yeah, I mean, my other moms, they're still back there.
Oh, okay. Oh, hey now. Set him up for
man.
that one.
Yeah, there you go.
But what was it? I guess if I jump in real quick, just about the CrossFit. So I think a lot of people out there maybe just started CrossFit, or maybe around your age, and it's like one of those things where, has there been a common through line for you that's kept you kind of engaged? Is it the community? Is it a goal that you're chasing? Is it just there's nothing else that really appeals to you? Like, what do you think kind of is making you stick with something like CrossFit?
Well, I think the community, like the friends that I've made, here through the Covington gym, and then when I moved here, all the new people that I met, that's been a great motivator to always come back. Even, if I've taken some time off in the past couple of years with work and stuff, I've always made it back because, I still have friends here that I don't really get to talk to outside of here. So it's been great to meet new people, continue those relationships, but then also just to continue to improve myself physically. And I don't want to buy new pants, larger sizes. So financially, it's a good decision.
Right.
Financially sound decision.
I've weighed I've done the spreadsheets on the pants. And they need to stay the same size.
Yeah.
But I'll speak as a coach, man. I'm super impressed with you still. Over the years, I know you got a super demanding job. You're a guy that is married. That's clearly outkicked your coverage. So congratulations on that. You have a beautiful wife, very smart, and yeah, man. I mean, there's some days where I come in and it's obviously being around you for so long now. I think me and Jared both come in. Well, some days I'm like, dang, man, Adam's strong. Like he's a strong kid. And that doesn't just happen. So I think sometimes it's maybe even harder for ourselves to see it. And coaches, I think you just made a comment whenever we were about to start the podcast, because there's a class going on right now, and Jordan, you're like, man, Jordan looks like a young man now. It's like, yeah, he's 19. He started when he was like 15 or whatever. And
I've got
it's crazy to see people kind of grow up, and I think you're one of those guys that definitely, you look good and you keep making progress, and it might not be that like I walk in and I get a 50-pound PR today, but it's, those 5 and 10 pounders like start to add up. And then before you know it, you're, have a really good base of fitness.
And that's what's awesome, is because I've been able to get stronger and do different movements throughout these 5 years, but the amount of stuff I've learned surpasses any of that, with nutrition and how to maintain myself, just become more mature, along with understanding, how to handle the tough stuff in the classroom. But then also, with nutrition, knowing what you can eat also kind of correlates with, your finances. You can't go out and spend a ton of money because then you don't have any. It's almost like your calorie deficit.
The priority.
Yeah.
It's a priority thing. You can go out and eat out, every third night or every other night. But if you are on if you have your finances in order, then when you comes time to meal prep, the higher quality foods that you need, that you want to make throughout the week, aren't going to be able to be afforded, right? And that's one thing we talk about with a lot of people is, where are your priorities at? And you see, it's the old adage of, no one's too busy. It's just a matter of priorities, and when you prioritize things like sleep and nutrition and fitness, you can save money in other areas. If you are on 5 medications and you prioritize something else like sleep, nutrition, and fitness, you can probably knock that down to 1 medication. And we've seen that time and time again. I guess it might go in the opposite direction. If you lose a bunch of weight, you have to buy a whole new wardrobe. It will, which we've seen. That's
probably a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have. But we have actually seen that, where it's like I had to go out and buy all new pants. It's I've given away quite a few items of clothing over the years, because when I started, I was 215 pounds versus 170 now.
Yeah.
So the things you've seen when I ate myself.
Yes.
It's like an extra face. Maybe I'll throw that up just like right as a comparison photo. But back to your point, the priorities are probably the biggest thing, and obviously, like you said, sometimes you will have to move away from coming in every day because of work. You do have a demanding job, but there's always a end goal of, I need to get back here, and this is why, because it is a priority, and health and fitness is a priority. We see all too often where, I can't make it in, I'm too busy, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And it's like, well, number one, if your anxiety levels and your stress levels and your resting heart rate is 130 because you're stressed all the time, well, if you're dead, you're going to be too busy being dead to do anything else. You have to find a balance. Do you find that there's because again, with work and things like life, sometimes it just gets too much and you have to take a big step back. Do you ever find that with work in your life now, to where it's like, I have to get back here, or I have to go do something, whatever your outlet is? It doesn't necessarily have to be here, but have you found that recently or anything?
Yeah, I mean, so sometimes I'll look at my schedule, and if I'm traveling, I'll arrange that schedule so that maybe perhaps I travel later in the day, so I can come in here, and kind of get my mind off of that, because traveling is pretty stressful, and I mean, along with work and everything else. So, but
do you drive or fly mostly?
Lately, it's been driving. So that's kind of stinks, just sitting down for 5 hours or so.
Where do you usually drive to?
Morristown, Tennessee is one of my favorite places, and then Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Fort Wayne.
I got a great podcast you can listen to for your drives.
Yeah. You're just gonna listen to yourself.
Plug it in.
Yeah.
There it is.
Oh, it's this. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
There you go. But yeah, Fort Wayne is that's one I used to travel to a lot growing up, for tournaments and things like that. That's not too far, right?
No, it's like 3.5. 3.5.
Yeah.
But
going north, and going anywhere north is just flat. At least going to places like Tennessee, like you get some hills,
Yeah,
the scenery changes. Changes. It's a little bit nicer.
So you kind of, what you were saying there, you come in, kind of reframe, like, this is, and again, it's kind of been a through line. A lot of the guests have been like, hey, this is my refuge, this is my place where I can go and kind of recalibrate the day or just get my mind off things. 'Cause that's one definitely thing CrossFit provides is kind of shut your mind off, you know. And that's the one of the biggest personal benefits I can attest to. So that's one of the things you kind of built into your schedule almost. If you're about to travel, hey, I know I'm going to go to the gym before I leave.
Yeah, because while you're here, you don't think about any of that stuff. You don't think about any other stressors or.
You don't have to, or you can't in some cases.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's
can't
more like
breathe.
I can't physically breathe. One of the, and this is just something that I've personally started asking everybody that's come on here, and again, mainly because I saw it in my life. Have you seen your? I just equate it to problem solving, but have you seen your mental capacity for problem solving basically increase? What I mean by that is, again, something like a daunting thing like Monday, where you've got, to spell it out for people listening, it was 50 wall balls, 15 cleans at 135, right? 50 wall balls, 15 or 10 cleans at 185, 50 wall balls, 5 cleans at 225, and it's relatively daunting, and for a lot of people, especially starting out, when you see numbers like that, can be pretty terrifying. And then I think as you're working through it, there's the whole rainbow of emotions of, denial, anger. You're seeing like, I can't do this. There's no way I'm going to finish this. I just want to give up. And then whether it's coach, whether it's meant, inside your own mind, I just do it. Just one rep at a time. Okay,
Yeah.
Boom. And I think what that did for me was almost rewire my brain to where you see something that is, there's no way we're going to be able to make it through this.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no way I can handle the stress. And then you just start to chip away like, okay, one little step at a time. And I saw, at least I attribute it mostly to CrossFit. Maybe it's just becoming an adult. Maybe it's being an owner of a business. But I definitely attribute it a lot to just my ability to work through problems in here. And that's definitely equated that in my life. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, and to kind of build upon what you're saying, it's, like a workout is going to be, perhaps even 5 minutes to 15 minutes. And you're going to chip away at that, and you see it completed, and there's that sense of accomplishment. A lot of things in life are kind of a little bit more long-term than that, like paying off any kind of debt or saving up for a new car, stuff like that. And at first you're like, oh, God, I'm never going to pay off.
Mm-hmm.
We just actually had to replace our AC, and that's an expense that we weren't prepared for. And,
that sucks.
And immediately we're like, oh, this is going to be horrible. But like a workout or something, you look at it and you divvy it up and you think, well, this is how much I'll be able to pay toward that. And it's almost like doing the wall balls. I'll be able to do, 4 different sets, maybe 15, 10, 10. So, these short-term accomplishments, I think, are parallel to,
Yeah, that's equivalent to, we're going to do this payment, this payment, this payment. It's exactly, and it rings true. I mean, because again, I think just, there's no handbook on being an adult. Like there's no one.
Not?
Yeah. Well, it's like one of those things.
Be out there.
You're in high school and college. And you're like, why do I need to learn algebra unless you're going, and maybe being in your field. My field, I didn't need it. I was making flyers and taking photos and things like that. But it's like, I would have rather had someone sit me down and say, "This is how you do your taxes." Like,
right, more realistic type stuff. But to kind of your point, Adam, one of the things I want to jump in on, since you've been here for 5 years now and you see a workout come up like we just talked about on Monday, does a workout come up or a movement come up right now with all your experience in doing CrossFit that intimidates you or scares you or causes you to maybe not come to the gym that day? Be honest. Oh, I'll take that as a yes.
I might have slept in during
Mark's got 1 week of programming left.
No, because I think this is a real problem, right? So, one of the things I'm dealing with right now is a new CrossFitter, a la my wife, and she'll see a movement like we did 50 toes to bar yesterday, and she's like, I can't do that, so why am I going to go? And this is a repetitive conversation, and I'm like, obviously I'm explaining to her, like, you have to scale it.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, look at the whiteboard, see how many girls did the workout RX, and it was like 5, and I was like, does that
versus
help
the
you?
30 that came in for the
but
day.
she is so into like what she's doing and that so on and so forth, and it's that psyche, you know, and I feel like that drives some people away from CrossFit that just are a little impatient. You know, like you said,
Yeah.
hey, I have to be patient, I have to save, I have to break this down. And you haven't, maybe speak some life into those people and how you started and you looked at workouts to maybe how you look at workouts now.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I couldn't imagine doing a pull-up. And,
Yeah.
you know, like 3 years ago, I was able to do, I think for the team workout, maybe 19 in a row or so. And now, because I got some shoulder issues, you know, that I'm kind of nursing, sometimes, you know, the toes bar were a little frustrating, but there's stuff that you can modify to get better.
And I'm not saying like, hey, whenever I modify, I'm smiling and everything's awesome. Like there's a certain level of suckiness to, you know, having to modify stuff. And I've been there with shoulder things and different things like that. But it's, you know, you have to keep your eyes on the prize kind of thing.
Yes.
And it's like, am I going to let this random Tuesday in October workout of whatever year dictate the rest of my, you know, training?
Yeah.
Or am I going to be an idiot and try to jump up here and do all these toes to bar with a busted shoulder and then maybe be out for a year with a rotator cuff or something?
Right. Yeah. And so yesterday I did GHDs, which are absolutely horrible, and I can't laugh today.
Still got a good workout, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like ring rows are great. You know, there's definitely
always
things,
something. Yeah.
It's I think a part of it is the human condition and amplified by our society, you know, a very quick turnover. You know, it's very hard for us to see. You know, we talk about long-term goals all the time here. You know, it's like, what's a 5-year plan? What's a 3-year plan? And it's really hard to see that far. You know, and you ask someone who comes in, and whether there's a performance goal or there's a weight loss goal, whatever it might be, it's really hard for them to see that it is a slow, incremental process. You know, like you said, a random Tuesday in October, you know, might be the end of the world for somebody. But we all know that even if you take a month off, if you've been doing this for 5 years, you know, 7, 8, whatever, how many years, there's a very, even within that short time, it's a very short amount of time. You talk about your lifetime, that's even smaller, you know? So if you take a month off, you know, again, just to take a big step back for a hip, you know, my hip. But the nice thing is right now, I think I finally have a solution to basically what was a lifelong problem. It had nothing to do with CrossFit. It had something to do with, you know, growing up and favoring one leg playing soccer for 10 years.
Oh yeah, and you find that in so many people. But yeah, I mean, just to finish up that point with you, Adam, is just, again, just speaking to the point of perspective of this was where I was at day one, and then now year 5. Obviously things have changed, and you've seen some progress, but you kind of probably have a good idea where your fitness is. You know what I mean? If something comes up where we're running a mile or we're doing a max deadlift, you're like, all right, well, hey, I generally know this is how long this is going to take. So you know, you have a plan. And that's kind of like Jared's saying about like the adult handbook. Guess what it is? It's experience. You know, and if you're going to only come once a week just to skip out on doing things you can't do, guess what you're missing out on more than anything? Experience. Yeah. And it's just experiencing things. Like we're about to do a weightlifting meet, which, dude, you know, it's going to be nerve-wracking for a lot of people involved. There'll be a lot of nerves. But guess what? The more weightlifting meets those people do, and Jared can speak to this. I've never done a weightlifting meet. I would like to, you know, eventually. But the more and more you do, it's just, you know, I played sports my whole life. I would still get nervous before games, but, you know, the more I played, you know, on a bigger stage or whatever, just the more experience you have. So it's, I think you have to do that. It's a good thing to get butterflies when you're on your way to the gym or get a little nervous and stuff. But then whenever you get there and someone cracks a joke, it's like, oh, these people are all just, you know, here to have a good time and not, you know, really be super judgy. And if that's your box, that's your community, then you might want, you know, you might need to reconsider where you're at.
Surround yourself with. I want to take a quick break. I want to come back and talk to Adam a little bit behind the motivators in your life and kind of what pushes you beyond your current ability. We'll be right back. CrossFit is demanding both physically and mentally. Setting goals are the foundation to push your athletic ability, and the hour we have together a day may not always be in line with those personal milestones you've set for yourself. Triumph Performance is based around just that, your goals. Together, in a one-on-one setting with your coach, we will set manageable and timely goals. Your program, unique to your needs, will accelerate the path to your target. Most have an idea of where they may want to go, but together with your Triumph Performance coach, we will assess your fitness level, develop a custom fitness plan, and keep you on track to successfully complete your goal. For more information, please contact a coach or email info@triumphstrength.net. And we are back. We're here with Adam Zoda on the Everyday Athlete podcast. We kind of left off talking about the starting out in CrossFit, finding those things that are super intimidating, and really just as time goes on, things just automatically become less intimidating. Very rarely is something scare you your whole life. It's usually this. The first couple times you experience something, that's usually what's the most terrifying. But once you do it over and over again, it just becomes almost every day. Everyday athlete. But I do want to kind of switch gears and talk a little bit about, what were the motivators in your life that kind of brought you to where you were today? Whether it's a parent, a coach, a book you read. I don't know if there's Mark. It's 9 out of 10 times it's usually what it is.
Right.
Obviously.
So then I'll jump to number 2 then.
Yeah. Let's just assume it's us, and then
someone else.
Fill in everyone else.
Yeah. It's Jarrett, then Mark, then Steve Jobs.
We're both in there. Yeah.
So when I was, I wasn't too active during high school doing athletics and stuff, like indoor track and stuff, but that was just shot put. Started going to college, kind of.
What'd you study?
Accounting and finance.
Numbers guy.
So, from there, I started meeting different people, got a job at McAllister's Deli. That was kind of like my first job.
I love McAllister's.
Met a lot of people. It's pretty good. I guess I haven't eaten there since I've left, but no offense to that. But I did develop some unhealthy habits, and at one point I got a membership at the local box there, the Globo Gym or whatever, and got talked into doing some personal training there, and I remember that first time I wasn't able to do a push-up, and from there, I would do the bicep curls and all that silly stuff, and a new trainer came, and he had a bunch of kettlebells, and he had like a Rogue set in this one room, and I started talking to him, and I started working with him, and for maybe a year I was doing kettlebell stuff, and he was about to leave, but he recommended CrossFit, and that's also about the time where Brandon Roan,
B Money,
Yep,
introduced me to Covington CrossFit, and I. Am I answering the question? Did I get off it?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
It's more just about, obviously there are people that influence you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, throughout your life.
What was kind of the motivation? Was it like when you couldn't get that push up and you're like,
yeah, so maybe necessarily wasn't a person, but
I might not be doing something.
Yeah, it was
an
just
instance.
improvement.
And then you kind of said like, hey, I don't want to do curls. This doesn't seem applicable to life as much maybe.
Yeah, doing actual movements that helped me in life.
You wanted to move.
And then also during that, I really started to learn about nutrition, and I watched movies about eating better, and like kind of like Food Inc. was one of the main ones that kind of got me inspired.
Supersize Me.
And
that was one for me.
Yeah,
it was like, wow, it was like, because that was right.
It really was a good one.
I was in college, and you're like, oh wow, there is a correlation, and it sounds really almost silly, but we're made to think that just because something says it's healthy, you think, again, a lot of people think they're making a healthy choice, when in reality they're probably not, and it's not their fault. Just because something is the low-cal version on the menu, it's like, yeah, but you can make your own food.
And the wording of like whole and healthy and all that stuff is
local.
all bull
But
crap.
you're when you finally make
even
this
organics
correlation between here to here that like, oh, I am at this place because of what I'm eating, or again, just for my hip, it's like there's a correlation between why I have basically a very, very tight hip and why my hips are off center and all this kind of stuff that's built up over the years. And when you finally make this correlation, then things start to kind of open up and clear up. And I think that's where you see a lot of the progress too in this sport in particular. You see a lot of really, really smart people coming into the field, and we're reading the Rise of Superman book right now, and the correlation between these huge gains we've seen in extreme sports. You can call CrossFit an extreme sport even, and the progress they've made versus other traditional sports. And something starts to click for a group of people, and then that group of people gets larger, and the pool of talent just gets bigger. I know Mark wanted to, because you guys just were together over the weekend and had some of Adam's.
Yeah, he paid me to come over his house.
He's pretty cheap, actually.
Yeah, really cheap, guys. If you're out there, I'll give you my number in show notes. But no, Adam's a super interesting guy. I'll say that out loud. And he can brew some amazing beer. So believe it or not, it's not all paleo, guys. So don't go crazy. But he did he had a little birthday party, played some cool games, and had some fun. He's got a really cool group of friends, and so anyway, maybe talk a little bit about, hey, what's your 9 to 5, and then how did you get into brewing beer?
I got into brewing beer because of my 9 to 5.
Oh, there you go.
I'm just teasing.
I've kind of wondered that, by the way, just off off the cuff, like, is it therapeutic or is it stressful, like brewing beer? I would imagine it wouldn't be too stressful if you kind of do it as a hobby, but then there's probably some moments of stress when you have to taste, or I don't know the whole process.
It is actually really stressful.
Okay.
And sometimes I have to be in the right mood to actually do it, because it's kind of, there's so many things that go into it, and I won't get into the details, but the day of brewing is a lot really, really stressful, but when you're kegging it, that's very therapeutic.
Oh, cool.
And then when you're able to pour a pint, that's pretty sweet too.
Yeah.
But something about making your own stuff.
No, and that's all. And then sharing with people is great too. And
how'd you get into doing it?
I had a buddy that did it, and it seemed really just seemed super interesting to me, because it's a lot of science, but then also a lot of art and craft in there, and I love science and numbers, and there's a ton of that, doing equations. But then also you can do your own spin on it and put some love in there.
Yeah,
and when you get to name a beer, that's got to be the artsy side and creative. But maybe give us like the Cliff Notes version of just a synopsis of the process of brewing a beer. Maybe just the next minute or two, if you can.
Yeah, I'll give you the Cliff
How's
Notes.
it start?
So I guess first is deciding what kind of style you want to make. Recently, I've been doing a lot of sours and lagers, which have been very challenging. So then I'll formulate a recipe, and then the day of brewing, I'll get the water together, and that kind of, with that, you have different water chemistry, the minerals you'll put in there, the pH is important. You'll mash the grains, so that's changing the starch to sugars. Then you'll boil it, add the hops. The hops will make it bitter, add flavor. Actually, also act as a preservative, and depending on the style, different amount of hops. From there, you'll cool it down, and then you'll pitch the yeast. But the day prior, I'll get a yeast starter going, so I'll get prepackaged yeast, almost make a mini beer.
Where do you get the ingredients from primarily?
Listerman's up right by Xavier.
Okay.
Great brewery too.
I was just there Saturday.
Yeah, I love that place.
And you do this mostly just all in like the kitchen kind of thing, or is it
in the garage?
In the garage.
Yeah. So I got a little station, and I'll kind of wheel it out.
Yeah. No, I've seen it.
And then so I'll ferment it, and that takes a couple weeks, and that's kind of taught me a lot of patience. And then after that, I'll keg it, and then maybe 2 weeks after that, after conditioning and carbing, it'll be ready.
That's awesome.
Interesting.
We are having our weightlifting meet this Saturday is at a brewery, and those guys have been pretty interesting to talk to as well. Where they literally just a bunch of friends started in a garage brewing beer together, and now you see them, basically just blowing up. You know,
Yes.
they bought 8 Ball, right?
Yeah.
Braxton bought 8 Ball, so basically their Braxton Labs is just where they're having fun. You
Yeah.
know, the art side of things,
Yeah.
where they're just going over there and trying anything and everything. Have you, you know, I think, you know, you talked about the stressors and the relief, you know, the side of things. Is it just something you think you're going to do just for yourself? I mean, because again, there's obviously, if it's just a hobby, it's just a hobby. But, you know, I think there's a lot of people who really enjoy beer.
Yeah.
You know? Any big plans for it, or is it just something that you think you'll just do for yourself and your friends?
I think every home brewer aspires to have their own brewery.
Yeah.
But then there's also a popular phrase of why ruin a good hobby?
Yeah.
Because I think like Evan and those guys, they don't, you know, they've turned into, you know, business
You
owners,
have to, yeah.
which is awesome. And that was always a dream of mine, was to own my own business and then to brew. That would be awesome. But I think at this point in my life, no, I'm going to embrace it as a hobby for right now. But, you know, definitely that's always kind of a thought.
Was it good, Mark?
It was delicious.
Yeah.
He does a really good job. I think he's definitely his own worst critic, like we are about our business. And I can definitely speak life into ruining a good hobby. I started as a CrossFit member, and you know, CrossFit is still fun. It's still my passion, but it definitely takes on a whole different level. And then even now, transitioning from coaching, you know, 20 plus hours a week to 5, you know, hours a week, when people are asking like, hey man, I haven't had a class with you in a while, and it's like tough to kind of explain like, you know, hey, I'm sorry, like I really wish I could coach. You know, I do have a passion for coaching, but if, you know, there is a future in this for myself and Mr. Baston, and honestly for you guys, like it would honestly be selfish of us to just keep coaching classes and not forecasting a vision. And that's where, you know, when you really step over that line from, hey, this is a hobby to this is a business.
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh man, I gotta like pay taxes and, you know, set up all these different licenses, and it's real, you know. And I know a lot of people probably just kind of think like, oh, you know, you guys just kind of have the life. You get to work out all day, and it's just like brewery, right? Like, oh, you guys just
drink beer all day.
Just drink beer and hang out. And
I can tell you from experience of talking to those guys, it is just go right now.
It's hustle. I mean, look, in any, both of you guys just said like, hey, this place is blowing up. You'll be hard pressed to find any business in America or anywhere in the world that's not thriving, and they're just getting by, but, you know, don't have a plan, or they're not working hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, and I know you work over right down the road, right? Mazak.
Yes.
And there's probably people that drive by that place on the gym every day, and they're like, what the heck does that place do?
Yeah.
And I think you've told me like multiple times, and I'm still like, what the heck does that place do?
It's a complex.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
it's
a
not
campus.
just a building.
Yeah,
it looks like a college
They got
campus.
like a campus. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the general? I don't want to generalize what they do, but kind of some of the larger things that Mazak does.
So we manufacture machine tools, which means absolutely nothing. It's unless you're in that industry. So
You make the things that make other things.
yes, exactly. So at that factory, they manufacture and build lathes, metal cutting lathes, and vertical mills. So kind of like all the Rogue bars and a lot of things from Rogue, they're machined on machines. They're turned down. So what makes it a perfect bar round is turning it on a lathe.
Is Rogue a client?
They're not. They buy Haas, a competitor.
Oh my goodness! I'm
But
sorry to bring that up.
It's funny to go on their Facebook page, and if they have a video of them, you know, turning or machining some metal, a lot of people say you should have bought a Mazak.
Ooh, a little smack talk in
Yeah.
the lathe industry.
Adam's just on there, just
I got like so many different Facebook accounts.
You're
just
like
trolling.
you're like talking revolutions per minute and stuff. Like, this one's doing.
Adam Oda.
They'll never get it. No, that's funny, man. That's super interesting. They're literally a mile away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think they're just exactly something that close. And you know, a lot of people don't think of these large companies being in these huge metropolitan areas, and Florence in its own right is a huge metropolitan area as far as how big it's growing. This is it's going to sound like a silly question, but it's a serious question I've always had. What cuts the cutters that aren't dulled by other metals?
It's so
there can only be so many hard things to cut other hard things.
right. Yeah. No. It's the inserts that are replaceable. They are compressed carbon, so they're super because all that pressure. They're
So they're not
really
being
strong.
cut then.
No.
Okay.
They're formed. And now drills will be ground, but I mean those grinding wheels are worn down, and just like those inserts,
Right.
after maybe 30 pieces of high production environment, they need to get changed out.
Right.
So.
That makes sense, because I've always wondered, I watch a lot of like how it's made and things like that. I love that show, but you watch these and it's like, this is a diamond tip, blah blah blah, and it can only nothing's harder. And I'm like, well, what makes that?
Yeah.
Because they're going to be something has to make it in order for it to cut other hard things. But
Yeah.
I'm not a genius or anything, but I'm pretty sure diamonds are made from coal. So there's a certain degree of pressure in the atmosphere. Anyway, Adam, what's something you're currently passionate about?
outside of brewing beer.
So I want to get an early '90s Land Cruiser,
Yes.
which
I like where this is going.
love camping, hiking.
Are you asking me to move in?
Get bunk beds. So those two, and then I've also been kind of super nerd, so getting into like personal finance, stuff like that, just trying to
Just
increase
figure
my
out your
knowledge.
personal finance, or like
Yeah.
getting into like a different industry?
Oh no, but in case anyone's hiring, no, I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
I literally have
you
dozens
can
of
throw your
dollars.
emails.
Dozens of dollars. What can I invest that in?
So sounds like you want to travel.
Yeah, I like traveling a lot.
Anywhere like in particular, just because I know you go down to the gorge.
Mhm.
That's where you got married,
Yes.
and beautiful wedding.
Thank you.
And so that's cool. I mean, why a Land Cruiser, and why?
I don't know. The Land Cruiser, I started seeing pictures of people with these huge ass. A lot of cuss.
Oh my goodness! I'll have to blur that
Very
out.
large vehicles.
Throw it away. Start over.
I just love the old style, and
they're sweet.
and just kind of seeing these pictures of everyone with these tents on top. It's just awesome.
So,
Yeah.
Really,
so
I'm jealous.
basically, because I've always been a car nut, and really, you go back, especially when it comes to car modification. You're basically talking about getting something, modifying it to your needs, right? And that's really where the world of hot rodding came from. And in a sense, it's its own world of hot rodding, because you're basically taking something that is being tossed aside to something like early 90s,
Yes.
right? Because you're now, 97 was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You don't really think about that, because that was when I'm growing up, and you're going to hear stuff that I think I brought it the other day, like when you hear Nirvana on WGRR, it's like, and up next, Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's like that was huge when we were growing up, but basically the point being is, you see in the car world, you saw a lot of the late 50s, the Chevy Bel Airs and all that, with the flames on the side. That was the world of hot rodding. And then it moves into the 80s, and then now 90s, which are now considered a classic car.
Yeah.
And you can get them for basically you get something for relatively cheap and modify it to what you need.
Yeah.
The nice thing about something like early 90s is you're in that sweet spot of everything still really mechanical, but it does have some of the more modern conveniences.
Yeah.
You're not in the early 2000s where you are now getting buggy, in-dash screens and things like that.
Yeah,
The early 90s are still early enough to where you can have have an AC that still works and not have to worry about the onboard computers being
Yeah.
completely awful.
Where's your first destination going to be?
If we got that, well, I would think like that. Maybe like Maine, Vermont would be pretty sweet.
Okay.
I think my wife would probably want to go southwest.
Southwest.
I think it's just a natural starting point. I
That's-
saw a big RV the other day, and it had a map of the United States that you fill in the states as you go to.
Yeah.
and it was literally like, you know, New York, New Jersey. And I'm like, why did you not just start in Maine? Because the whole Midwest, you know, down south. I'm like, so when are you going to drive back up to Maine?
Yeah.
Like, it's just my type A is like, why did you not just start there?
Right.
You know, I've always wanted to go to Nova Scotia too, on the
Yeah.
other side of that. And it's really cool.
Yeah, my wife wants to really go to Banff, like Calgary,
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah. I saw a map of Canada the other day, and it had the population density, and it was like 2/3 of the population lives in basically what would be considered like from here to Louisville in the whole United States.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's all
crazy.
pretty condensed in one small area. Where's your go-to hiking spot? You said down the gorge a lot.
Yeah, so the gorge, like, what is it?
People don't
Rock
realize how
Bridge?
beautiful it is.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And in close relation to us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Speaking to my buddy who rock climbs, the gorge is like top 10 every
Yeah.
year in places to climb in the world.
Yep.
It's,
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see all the different license plates when you're down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Martin's Fork Lake is a pretty sweet trail, and then I can't remember. There's Rock Bridge, but it's not not natural
Not
bridge.
the natural bridge.
But it's right next to this Creation Falls. I think it's
Okay.
the waterfall is right next to it. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's where we're actually going to try to get married at, because there's this little sandy beach right next to there.
Uh-huh.
But it was like 85 that day, so. And I was in,
Called an audible.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, we're just going to get married outside instead of hiking with 20
Yeah.
different people. So.
That's good. I've always, our family's gone down to Gatlinburg a lot growing up, and, you know, just being little, doing all the touristy stuff. But as I got older, just like, I'm driving out to the Smoky Mountains
Right.
and hitting these trails. You know, every time I go, it's like, what 14-mile trail can I hit while I'm down there? You know, just to see different parts of the park.
Yeah, you're not there for the beef jerky outlets. Or
Right. Well, and the knife shop, the knife stores you can go to every time. It's like I'm 9 years old again. What shiny thing can I buy? Come on with a samurai sword. Well, that's again, Mark and I, our passions are obviously rely a lot, most of which live in here, but we both definitely have other passions.
I don't hang out with Jared outside of work, I'll be honest.
We really don't.
He's weird. I don't know. And I'm normal, all right? No, yeah, it's good, you know. It's good to have, we do compliment each other well. But it's good to hear your story, man. But, you know, next thing I would just say is, you know, having a plan. So whether it's to get a Land Cruiser or to get a pull-up, it needs to, you know, you need to have a plan.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people that maybe even are inside these four walls or going through fitness, like if they're wondering like, why don't I look like this or that, or, you know, with the other thing, it's like, you got to have a starting point, you know? So if you're like, I want to buy a Land Cruiser. All right, well, how much is that?
Yeah.
You know, again, you're a numbers guy, like you're already probably plotting it out, planning it out. And then it's just, I feel like a lot of time, I would hope at least the majority of people with their finances are being diligent and, you know, planning things out. And, you know, obviously CrossFit is an investment, but it's an investment in yourself. Just like we talked about earlier with good food. If I'm consciously buying organic food, like I'm basically making an investment in myself, as opposed to I'm a broke college student and I need to eat McDonald's. You know, there's a time where we've all gone through that. But yeah, man, it's just have a plan, you know, and it's not easy. So generally what I'm saying is you got to talk to people about it too. So like you said, hey, I learned how to brew beer from a buddy of mine. I don't know if that's a skill you would have just picked up on your own eventually.
It's been tough,
who
man.
knows?
Yeah.
But it's so many times in life, you know, you never know who could be a mentor.
Yeah.
And whenever you have this community of people around you, or your wife to kind of bounce ideas off of, or whoever it is, you know, unfortunately there's a lot of people that are kind of alone sometimes. You know, so it's getting around a group of people and having a plan, like you said, whether it's a pull-up or a destination, you got to start that process. And I personally, I like to reverse engineer it. So it's like, what's my end goal? All right, now let's start thinking kind of backwards. And then it's just action, you know, cause it can all sound good in theory, Like, hey, Adam, what are you passionate about? I want to run for president. Oh man, that's amazing. I'm like, that's awesome. What's your first step? I have no idea.
Well, the last.
And it's never going to happen.
Sex scandal.
Yes, start with the sex scandal.
Yes, start there. Sandy's not listening. So.
I got some videos of Mark and Adam from earlier. And two, I think one of probably Mark, I don't want to say problems, but a lot of the speed bumps that we have are giving each other permission. Like, you're allowed to want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
You know, and that's a. It sounds weird, but that's a gift we have to give to a lot of people here. That, like, you know, like, I want to run a marathon, or I want to, you know, build a greenhouse in my backyard. Why? And I can't do that. Why not? Because of this. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's literally, it's happened to me personally, you know, just within the business here. I'm just like, I think that'd be really cool to do. And then Mark's like, okay, go do that. You know,
Right,
and
sure.
for whatever reason, it's just someone saying that, yeah, you can actually do that. You know, because again, I think we're just used to this structure, especially if it's a normal 9-to-5 type job, that, well, this is my role and this is what I play. And like, you're allowed to have other interests in life, you know?
I think you'll find a strong correlation probably in a lot of successful companies out there. And again, I'm not going to pretend to know what it's like to work at some of those, like the Googles and so on and so forth. Granted, they are absolutely, you know, crushing it and all the numbers and forecasts and all that stuff. But I guarantee they have more than just lateral movement within the company, you know, as far as like, hey, look, if you have this amazing idea, you know, I would imagine people aren't just going to sweep that under the rug. You know, you have people there that's actually going to listen. Yeah. But like you said, like actually going and doing it is a whole different thing. Because, I mean, ideas are, you know, whatever the cliche saying about the ideas, they aren't worth crap unless you actually have a plan or an implementation of how to do that idea. But I guess what I'm saying is just, you know, within our little business here, it's a lot of it's, you know, well, I'll have 1,000 ideas a day, but is there a plan that can support that? And with probably even within Mazak, if you guys are thinking of different ways to improve the lathes and do different things, and there might even be a chain of command to run that up and see how that's gone. And it's just that having that communication that can further, that's the key, right? Is that communication within an organization or just within a gym,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or if you're trying to brew beer, whatever it is.
I just saw, speaking of just that kind of branching out and going back to Braxton, I don't want to keep bringing them up, but I literally saw it last night. You know, they did the Graders beer.
Yeah.
And then they actually reversed that, and Graders did a chocolate stout ice cream.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
too.
pick that up. Speaking of ice cream, I always like to finish out with, what is your definition of fitness, Mr. Zoda?
Oh, I thought you were gonna ask me my favorite flavor.
No, do you have one?
It's it was like mocha, pistachio, fudge or something.
Nice.
You're
That
such a
sounds
hipster,
very
dude.
good.
You're unreal.
Definition.
Real quick, if you guys, do you like malts? Are you a shake guy?
I like everything.
Okay. For a while, you know, I own a gym, so I go to Graders often. So no, but there's a for a while there we would have a cheat meal. We'd get guys together and kind of go get something to eat, and you know, just kind of again separating yourself from that lifestyle so you can actually enjoy life every now and then. And I made my own concoction at Graders, and for a while there they kind of gave me, it was kind of cool where I just become the regular and give it the head nod, like, same thing today, sir. And yeah, but is salted caramel, double malt powder with peanut butter drizzle. If you ever get a chance, try. Make sure you're close to home because you're gonna need a nap pretty close afterwards. But you know, it's definitely one to check out if you ever get a chance.
All right, so we're skipping lunch and going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, definition of fitness. Let's go back to the real question.
Good follow up.
Yeah, good follow up.
So, I hope I'm not too sporadic. continual improvement and ability to adapt to any situation. I guess, right?
God, did you think it was like a? Did you write that out? You practiced it last night?
Yeah, I said it right.
Yeah.
I looked
Your
down
note
at my notes.
cards?
I'm sorry.
That's
No.
honestly, that's probably one of the most clear and concise, ones we've heard, and it definitely rings true. I mean, and the word is adapt. I think that's the key.
Huge.
Because, again, no progress is made by just being stagnant.
Mhm. Yep.
It was continually adapting, and again, if it's an injury, that is fitness is by adapting around said injury.
And then fixing that. Yep. And then improvement upon that.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic answer and a fantastic way to
Man, he just nailed it.
Crushed
end
it,
time
son.
to go. Thank you for listening to Everyday Athlete. Join us next week as we dive deep into the lives of the people who make us great. Thank you, Mr. Zoda.
Thank you guys.
Soda.